Hi everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we are diving into a US Bancorp filing. Let's see if their financial health is as strong as the buildings they might finance, or if there are cracks in the foundation. Seems like some good news for their dividends, but let's see what's going on. If you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where you can discuss this filing and more with other investors. First off, we see that this document is from US Bancorp, which is a big bank incorporated in Delaware. This is an 8K form which companies file to report major events that shareholders should know about. The date of the report and therefore the earliest event reported is July 1, 2025. It's a current report, which means it's about something that just happened. The report is filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, also known as the SEC. This section confirms that the filing isn't trying to satisfy obligations under other rules related to communicating with investors, like when a company is trying to buy another one. Scroll left of each exchange coffer on which registers grow. This table lists the different types of US Bancorp securities that are registered and where they are traded. We see things like common stock, which is what most people think of when they buy stock, and different series of preferred stock. These preferred stocks have different features and are traded under different symbols. There are also some notes which are like bonds with specific interest rates and maturity dates. This just says that US Bancorp is not a small emerging growth company, so they have to follow all the standard rules. Okay, so here's the main event. US Bancorp announced that the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the US, told them their preliminary stress capital buffer, or SCB, requirement is 2.6%. This SCB is like a safety net of extra capital that banks need to hold so they can withstand an economic downturn. The Federal Reserve will give the company their final SCB requirement later in August. A press release is attached to this report, which is a way for companies to share information with the public. The company is planning to increase its quarterly common stock dividend from $0.50 to $0.52 per share, assuming that for every share of common stock you own, you get 0.52 cents per quarter instead of $0.25. It is a small increase, but it's something. This part is important. It's the company's way of saying, hey, we're making predictions about the future and things might not turn out exactly as we expect. They're covering themselves in case their SCB requirement changes or something else happens that affects their plans. They're pointing out that you should read the risk factors in their annual report on Form 10K, which is where they list all the things that could go wrong. Scroll item 9.01. Kindness financial statements and exhibits quals a scroll. This section lists the exhibits attached to the report, including the press release and a file with interactive data. Here we see the press release is included, which has more details about the stress capital buffer and the dividend increase. This just confirms that the report was properly signed off by an authorized officer, in this case James L. Chosey, the Senior Executive Vice President and General Counsel. Now, looking at these events more broadly, US Bancorp is showing confidence in its financial health by planning to increase its dividend. The SCB requirement of 2.6% means the Federal Reserve sees them as reasonably stable, although they need to keep a bit more capital in reserve. One thing to note is that this is a preliminary SCB, so the final number could change. US Bancorp appears to be managing regulatory expectations and planning for long-term growth. The dividend increase is generally a good sign for investors, as it suggests the company is profitable and willing to share those profits. However, investors should always be aware of the risks involved in the financial sector, especially changes to regulations and economic conditions that can affect profitability. Overall, US Bancorp seems to be in a stable position, but it's important to keep an eye on the final SCB requirement and any changes in the economic environment. Alright, that's our breakdown of US Bancorp's latest filing. What's your take on these announcements and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.